Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our behaviour webinar for Watermill Primary. This webinar is for parents to give you some information about what behaviour looks like at our school. Just to start by introducing myself, my name is Susan Potter. I am an assistant head teacher here at Watermill, and I am also the behaviour lead. This presentation is being recorded and will be available on our school website. You're also welcome to ask any questions at the end, or if you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to email me. In today's session, we are going to think about a few different areas linked to behaviour. I'm going to begin by talking about how we promote positive behaviour at our school. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about our behaviour principles, our values and rules, and how we celebrate success. Then I'll tell you a little bit about what we do when behaviour goes wrong, how we get children back on track, and a little bit about how behaviour links to active learning. So if you visit our school website, you can read lots of information about our approach to behaviour in our behaviour policy. But to summarise really, at Watermill, every child is encouraged to be proud of their achievements. We nurture a community that is kind, respectful and inclusive, where children grow as creative, independent learners. So that is our vision for behaviour. And at our school, we're very lucky to be a small one-form entry school, which means we really get to know our children very well and our parents, and that gives us brilliant opportunities to get to know each and every child and support them to be those independent learners. When we are thinking about our behaviour principles, we can think about 5 main areas. So the main thing is we have really clear expectations for everyone. So we expect our pupils, our staff and our parents all to be excellent models of behaviour. We promote positive behaviour throughout our curriculum. I'm going to tell you a little bit more later about how we celebrate those achievements. We want our environment to be nurturing and safe, so a place where all children can thrive. We really appreciate that your children spend a lot of time at school with our teachers and our teaching staff, and we want them to feel as relaxed and as nurtured and as safe as they possibly can. We ensure that there's fairness and consistency for managing behaviour. So in a moment, I'm going to show you some of the strategies that we have in place across the school from early years all the way up to year 6 to help children have a really clear understanding of behaviour expectations. And of course, we want to work in partnership with families. We recognise that all of our families are different. We have children who have been at Watermill since they started school in reception. We also have lots of children who join us midway through the year who might have come from different countries, different types of schools. So we want to support all of our families and students to settle in and to feel really supported at our school. So to begin with, our values and rules. So at Watermill, everyone is expected to behave in a responsible, caring and respectful way at all times. And we have a few strategies in place to help children during the school day. First, we promote our CAM philosophy. So care for each other and school resources, aim for your best at all times, listen to others, follow instructions and show respect, and move around safely and quietly. And this is a mantra that the children are very familiar with, and it is displayed in each classroom, and children talk about this regularly. To support children moving around the school, we use our leaf lines. So that is where children line up in 2 lines, ready to move around the school quietly. And again, that's something that is in place in all classes, so there is a consistent approach and children have a good understanding of what they need to do. Our third picture shows our outstanding values. So this links to our Skills Builder curriculum. So as part of the curriculum, we link these standards to our 4 values. So we promote caring, creativity, integrity and respect. And linked to those values, we have our skills. So for example, each week the children might work on a skill, for example, teamwork within their classes, and that would also be a focus in our assemblies. So the idea is that we're constantly reinforcing all those values and rules throughout our school day. We celebrate success. I think it's really important for children to know that they're being really successful and doing really well at school. And last year, we did a lot of work thinking about how we celebrate behaviour and how we recognise all those achievements. And you may remember we asked parents for some feedback. We also spoke to pupils about their feelings, about what rewards they would like to have. And we also spoke to our staff team about what they felt worked really well. So we have a few different things in place. Throughout our lessons, teachers will use verbal praise and stickers. That might be within a lesson, that might be in children's books, and that's just to recognise when our children have worked really hard. And that keeps the atmosphere very positive and very focused on successes. Our children work in house groups, so each child, when they join the school, is assigned to a house team. And again, throughout the day, they earn points for their team. And again, that's building on that collaborative work and that teamwork element. Each day, a class teacher will choose a Star of the Day slip, and I know from teaching in Year 5 that the children absolutely love this. So the teacher might be focusing on something in class, perhaps listening skills or teamwork, and at the end of the day, a child has a certificate that they can bring home to show parents. And I know the children always enjoy receiving these and feel very proud to be able to take that home, and I think that helps to build that relationship between home and school and to have that communication. Hopefully you are aware of our celebration assemblies on a Friday. Each class teacher chooses a star of the week and a special mention. And again, this might be for children who have had really good behaviour, who have persevered and worked very hard at something, or for any reason they've overcome something that the class teacher would like to celebrate. Of course, we have our head teacher awards. So at any point, children visit the head teacher. That might be for a check-in, that might be to celebrate a wonderful piece of learning or a challenge that they have overcome. And throughout the school, we have a number of leadership roles. So for those children who have really good behaviour or who are really responsible, we want to elevate them and give them further opportunities. So we have roles such as school council, where children from each class join together to make decisions about how our school is run. Again, we have links to our eco committee and our house captains, where those children take on additional responsibilities. We try and celebrate achievements throughout the school year, and to keep up to date with those things, I recommend you look at our Facebook page where we share lots of photographs, and we also have our weekly newsletter where we update with different things that are happening across the school. So in thinking about behaviour, I think it's important to think about the curriculum as a whole. So we've got lots of things going on in our curriculum that help children to make the right choices. So I just picked out a few examples. I could have done 20 slides about this because behaviour fits into so many different areas of the curriculum. One of the things we're working on this year at Watermill is our RSE skills, and we have partnered with Voice 21. And the vision behind Voice 21 is to give every child a voice. And by ensuring that every child has a voice and feels they've been listened to, that really helps to support their behaviour because it helps them to be informed and to share their thoughts. And I'll talk about that a little bit later when I show you some of our classroom strategies. As I said before, behaviour comes into our assemblies. Through our assemblies, children learn about British values, they learn about different religions, they learn about our different skills such as teamwork, creativity, leadership. Throughout our curriculum, linked to our RE and our PSHE, we bring in lots of elements that teaches children how to behave in the wider world. So for example, we've recently had Children in Need, where children learned about charity, they learned about the importance of fundraising and why it is important to help people. And we've recently marked Remembrance Day, where the children had a special assembly where they shared what they had learned about Remembrance Day. And again, that links to that value of showing respect and an understanding of their British values. Through our enrichment opportunities, we have lots of educational visits where children get to go out and about. And I think through those experiences, they learn how to behave outside the school setting. As part of our curriculum, we also follow the NSPCC, Speak Out, Stay Safe, which teaches children what to do if they're having a problem. So it links to our safeguarding, giving children the tools they need to be able to handle difficult behaviour and difficult situations. And again, that comes into our computing curriculum. We're thinking about behaviour. We're also thinking about how children behave online. And we know children are using a lot of technology, and we really want them to have the skills to make informed choices, to know how to keep themselves safe, and again, to know who their trusted adults are who can help them with different situations. So behaviour really comes into lots of different parts of our curriculum. I'm also thinking about our community events, thinking about how our families and our community is a really good role model for how we behave and interact with each other. So of course, behaviour sometimes goes wrong for children, and we really appreciate that children are learning how to behave. We all make mistakes. It is a part of growing up. It is a part of learning. And our job as a teaching staff is to support children to overcome those mistakes and to reflect. So in the last year, we've done a lot of work in our school about using a restorative approach. And that's about helping children to take responsibility and to make things right. So if a child has a problem in school, so for example, maybe it's an argument in the playground or some kind of disruption in the classroom, okay, our teaching staff will use a restorative conversation. So we might ask the children questions to help them unpick what has happened in that situation. So we might ask them, what were you thinking at the time? How might your choice have affected other people? So getting children to reflect on how other people feel. And then a conversation about what we could do differently next time. Okay, so how could we have handled that situation differently? How could we have made a different choice? How could we have ended up with a better outcome? So that's the structure of a restorative conversation. And again, it might change depending on the situation. It would also change depending on the age of the child in terms of how detailed that conversation would be. As part of the restorative approach, there's also a focus on logical consequences. So we recognise the children sometimes make the wrong choice, but it's about how they make amends for that choice. So if they've had a disagreement where perhaps they've been very unkind to a friend, they might have a consequence that they would choose themselves. They might choose to write a letter, they might choose to apologise. If a child has got angry in the classroom and maybe they've been disruptive or they've been disrespectful of school equipment, they might then choose to spend some time tidying up the classroom to make amends for their error. So I think this approach is really helping our children to understand that they can make decisions about their behaviour and that they can reflect on the choices they have made. Within our classroom, each classroom has a set of behaviour steps. So this supports children, teachers, teaching assistants, whoever is working with that class to have a consistent approach. So in class with children, if children are making the wrong choice, they might begin by getting a warning from the teacher. So the teacher would give lots of non-verbal cues to help direct children towards their behaviour. Then they might give a warning. So they might name the behaviour. So for example, if a child wasn't completing their work, they might give them a warning and say, listen, it's time to start your work. You need to use your learning time wisely. If they weren't doing that and the child wasn't listening to instructions or being disruptive, they might move to step 2. Okay, and this might be where they need to have a short reflection to think about their behaviour. And again, an adult would check in with them to see what the issue was. So for a child not starting their work, is it a choice? Is it because the work was difficult? Have they lost focus? Is there something they need to do to refocus? So the teacher would support that child to get back on track. If the behaviour continued and it was continuing to be disruptive, step 3 would be when the children might need to go to another classroom. So that might be for a 5-minute break in another classroom to finish their work. And again, that would be followed up with a conversation with the child to see what has happened that they haven't been able to complete their work in class. And again, it's unpicking what has happened and what is that barrier for that child, which is preventing them from being successful in their own lesson. Okay, and then if that still wasn't working and the child returns to the classroom and it's still disruptive, then they might go and speak to one of our phase leaders. So we have a phase leader in Key Stage 1 and in Key Stage 2, and then they might have a conversation with the child to work out what the issue is and what we need to put in place to support that child. And this step approach is something that's in each class. The children have a copy of this in their class. We review it regularly and they're quite familiar with the steps. And I think it helps to find the balance between ensuring children have the support to stay on track, but also making sure that other children's concentration isn't being disruptive. So it's always finding that balance to work with a whole class setting. And of course, step 5, the children are well aware that there's a zero tolerance approach for any sort of racism, homophobic language, violence. Luckily, we've got very good behaviour in our school, and it's very, very rare that children get to step 5, but they're very aware that those things are not acceptable at our school. Just to tell you a little bit more about how behaviour fits in. So just thinking about our learning and our curriculum, behaviour is really closely linked to children's learning behaviours. So it's really important that our children are coming to school ready to learn. So as a class teacher, I've seen it myself where children might come to school and maybe they haven't had any breakfast or they've had a very late night and they're quite tired. All of these factors have an impact on their behaviour and their attitude to their learning. So it's really important that children are having that really good night's sleep, that they're coming to school ready for the day, having had a really good breakfast. Also limiting screen time, especially before bed, to help children have a good night's sleep. And also limiting screen time in the sense of making sure the children are having that quality time with adults at home and with their peers, so they're developing all of those social skills. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a huge focus on RSE this year, and it's really important to have those conversations with your children at the end of the day and really celebrate everything that they are learning about. You know, school is demanding and our children work incredibly hard, and it's really important that they get the opportunity to share everything they have been doing. And just going back to this, when we talked about our behaviour steps, I forgot to mention that if a child has been on steps and has got to step 3, the teachers will talk to parents. So the teacher will talk to you at the end of the school day, and if you don't collect your children, the teacher will phone you just to give you a little bit of update. So sorry, I just thought I would mention that as that is an important detail. And yes, having a really good routine really supports children, and of course having really good attendance. We understand the children do get ill and do need time to recover, but we really would like to see children in school every day as much as they can so that they can engage with their learning and so that they're not missing out on important lessons. And just encouraging children to be very independent and to make those decisions and make those positive choices about their own behaviour. Thank you very much for listening. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now. I've just given you a little bit of information on this final slide. You've got my name and you've got my email address if you ever want to contact me about anything related to behaviour. I've also given you a link to our website. On the website, you will find our policy, which goes into a little bit more detail about behaviour at Watermill. Also, it has some links to other policies linked to attendance, SEND, that you might find useful if you're trying to find any information. Thank you very much for joining us today and for your time. I'm going to end the recording now, and if anybody has any questions, you are welcome to ask. Thank you.